Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean D. Morris. Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another Honorable Warrior episode on Bravery Within. I'd like to thank you so much for tuning into my podcast, as you guys always do. You guys are amazing. You're making the numbers grow bigger and bigger all the time. On my YouTube page, thank you so much for that. If you guys are listening to it on another platform, say Pandora or Apple or Spotify or something like that there, let me know, would you? Either put it on the Facebook page or shoot me an email there if you get a minute. I'm kind of curious to see where you guys are listening to the podcast on, just to try to get an idea of, if I need to focus on a new area for you guys, to make sure, because I don't want anybody left behind in my podcast, and because we're growing, we're hitting almost the 6-month mark already here, and we've got about 60 episodes out there, so I just want to make sure that we're, including everybody that we can include on these podcasts, and now that I have 5 series that we're talking about, there's just a lot of content here, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. So, to get started on the Honorable Warrior episode of the day here and stuff, which is episode 3, it is called Men Make Great Single Fathers. And I really wanted to hit on this one here because personally, being a single father myself, there after the divorce and everything else, there was a learning experience and a very quick learning curve, not going to lie about that one, on how to make sure to keep the balance going on and how to be both mom and the dad at the same time there, and while you're trying to figure all of this stuff out. Now, I just want to make it clear before we get started too far into this episode, is I am not going to be dogging on my ex-wife. I'm not going to say she did anything wrong. I just want that clear right up front here. I'm not going to say anything like that. So if you're expecting me to basically run her into the mud, not going to happen. There was mistakes made on both sides for the divorce, or for the marriage and everything else that led to the divorce. And I just want you guys to know that I'm not tearing anybody down here, and it's up to you on how you guys conduct your lives, your marriages, your divorces, your relationships, all that stuff. That's completely up to you. To me, I just don't really see a lot of good in getting down in the mud and slinging mud at my ex for anything, because I know I upside-daisied and I made a bunch of mistakes in the marriage. There's no doubt in my mind on that one there, so it's not right to blame her for everything. So I'm just letting you know as we get started in this episode here of kind of where I'm going to be coming from, because honestly, I have met a lot of single fathers, and they are incredible fathers. I mean, they are dedicated, loyal, loving. They work so hard, 5 to 7 days a week. Some of them have worked 2 and even 3 jobs. I mean, personally, I have worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and keep things going in the right direction. And I've seen so many of these guys here, and they get basically drilled in the ground. And I'm not quite sure why society is so hard on single fathers. Now, I know there's a fair share of guys out there and stuff there that don't earn the name father. They're just it's just not their cup of tea. They just don't want to be a dad, and they don't want to be part of it. And that's fine. That's up to them. I'm not going to say anything against them either. But I have been so fortunate to meet some single fathers, and we all kind of learned together. We all kind of exchanged tips. We all kind of, to help each other out. We supported each other as you go through the divorce, and then the after effects. Because you're trying to keep things leveled out for your kids. You're trying to keep things somewhat normal, which is virtually impossible. When you're doing a dynamic shift of the family, like what happens through a divorce and everything, it's virtually impossible to try to keep everything leveled out. And even if it's a very amicable divorce, which mine was, I was very fortunate that, we went 2 separate ways. It was actually very easy. And I'm very thankful for my ex-wife for doing that. And because I honestly think my son benefited from it, because we went our 2 separate ways. We were able to set up our new routines, our new homes, our new way of doing things right away, and I think it helped the transition. Now, one of these things, the Honorable Warrior series was meant to be with four four people here, me and my three co-hosts, but I haven't been able to get the time put together to where we can all sit down. And I was really hoping to do this episode with my team, and hopefully we might do a part two, to be very honest with this one here, because I think there's a lot of material that we can talk about. But today you're just stuck with me and my just vision of a single father. So I'm hoping you hang in there and come through the podcast, because this whole episode is dedicated to the men out there that, you know, they do work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And then you come home and you help the little ones there with their homework, or just listen to their day. You make supper, you get the laundry done. You know, all of this stuff that typically was done by two people is now on the shoulders of one person. And I have to admit, for me, I did a lot of that stuff prior to the divorce. So for me, making that transition was a lot easier. And for that reason, I was really, really grateful, because then I could dedicate more time to my son to try to keep him on track with school, with all of his activities, keeping myself in the right mindset of going to work, coming home, making sure things are done, getting the meals done, taking care of the laundry, the dishes, the cleaning, all that stuff there, because I did a lot of that anyway. So it made the transition for me easier. It didn't make the trauma of losing my ex-wife any less. I mean, I hated getting divorced. I hated going through all of that stuff there. It broke my heart, and it took me a long time to heal from that. And that's a popular misconception, is men, well, it's no big deal, we'll just shove it under the rug and move on. When you go through a loss like that, it's really, really hard on them. But the bad part of it is when you're a single father, at that point you can't basically stop and lick your wounds and allow yourself to heal. It's really rough, because your kids come first. There should be nothing more important to you in your life than what your kiddos are. And for me it is. It's always, my son has always been put very first. Nothing else comes first. The second person is Willow, or any of my fur babies that I've been fortunate enough to have in my life. They've always come way before me. I've made sure that they've got food, they have water, there was power in the house, there was water, there was, you know, all the basic necessities to life. And that was my concern about making sure is my kids were taken care of. And that's one thing that I helped out some of the other guys that we would go through, because you just feel this incredible stress and this incredible weight on your shoulders. I mean, us men already have a lot of weight on our shoulders that society places on them. And there's so much stress about, you know, we're supposed to be the providers, the protectors, the helpers, there's so many different things that is expected out of us. And I'm fine with that. I mean, if that's my role, that's fine. And I've been fine with it my whole life. I don't have a problem with it. The only thing that really made it hard was the healing process. And I know you're probably thinking, guys don't need time to heal. It's no big deal. They don't have emotions. They don't have feelings. Well, I hate to break your heart, but we do. And ours run just as deep as what any woman's out there does. We just don't express them. We don't show them. We're not allowed to, and we stay away from that. So there's so many of us guys out there that, you know, as you're going through the divorce, and then you have to try to figure out, okay, how am I going to be a father? I mean, how do I do both jobs? It's like, this is a bit overwhelming, because the moms have always been, or the partner, one of them typically is the softer one, the loving one, you know, the kind one. And then you always have, you know, typically the rougher, the gruffer, which in traditional families, that's the guy, and then the other one's a woman. But in this day and age, it's however you want to set up your family dynamic. It's completely up to you. However you want to raise your kiddos, that's up to you. I mean, I'm not saying anything against anything, because as long as you get people that love each other and want to take care of the kids, hey, I'm all for it. I mean, you go right on ahead, because this world doesn't have enough love, doesn't have enough care in it. And that's why I try to do these podcasts, is because I want to let you know you're not the only one out there. We're all going through this together. And as I've said in many other series, I am just a normal guy. There is nothing special about me. I work 40 hours a week. I come home, I take care of the house, I do the housework, make dinners, you know, I do all of that stuff. And it's no big deal to me. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I go to bed at 8, 9 o'clock at night there, so I can start it all over again. Some nights are later than that. But when I was going through the divorce, the very first thing that I swore to myself as I was going through this was I needed to keep the routine for my son and I needed to keep the normal. We did like Friday night get-togethers. We would have game nights. We always did it as a family. And it was very important to me, and it was very important to my family. And that's one thing that I maintained, that right out of the shotgun, it was either I made something that my son, because I didn't have any money, absolutely none. I'd had to work up to be broke. Let's just be honest. It's just like, whew. How am I going to get it through? How am I going to put food on the table for tomorrow? So sometimes I just had to make it. So I would make like chocolate chip pancakes for him, and eggs and hash browns and sausage, and whatever was left over, then I would have, and then we would play video games. And back in those days, Guitar Hero was a big thing. So we did a lot of Guitar Hero, and we had a lot of fun with it. Or we would sit down and we would play chess, or we would play cards, or something like that. And then that turned into, once we got our routine going, and then we had a friend come over, and she's been wonderful. She's been with us every step of the way. She helps out wherever she can, and she started coming over for Friday night poker nights, and then that just spiraled into, okay, this is what we just do every Friday night. And so I tried to maintain, like when he was at school, I made all of his concerts, I made all of his social deals, I made the functions, the teacher-parent conferences. When he was in all kinds of different things there, I made sure that I was a part of it, because it kept keep everything feeling normal. So for me, that was one of the things that I tried to do the most. But through all of this, all the way down the road, I got them leveled out. We got our normal routines going. Go to school at a certain time, come home at a certain time. Both of us were working at the time, at the time stuff there. So then you have to coordinate all that stuff. It was all so busy, and I'm thankful for it, because I think it helped me actually basically be able to move on. And I'll be honest, it took me probably a year to move on. I think my ex moved on a little bit faster than that, which is fine. I mean, I'm happy for her, and that's great. I mean, if that's what she wanted to do, I'm happy. As long as she's happy, that's all that matters to me. And I know you're probably thinking, really? You're happy for your ex-wife? Yes. Everybody deserves to be happy. Just because our relationship didn't work out and went to the side doesn't mean that I need to harbor any ill will towards her and wish her anything else. Now, however you want to do your relationship and your divorce and everything else, that's up to you. There's no judgment here. It's completely up to you. This is just how mine happened to turn out. But it took me a long time to heal up, and then, like I said before, I had to relearn who I was, and I did a lot of research. But it probably wasn't until 6 months down the road, after we had everything in place, and my son was in a good place, and we were rolling and working with the ex-wife and stuff there, and we had the weekends figured out and the times and everything there. Then reality started to set in a little bit more for me, I'll be honest. And it was like, okay, I have these feelings, I have these strong feelings, these strong emotions that I hadn't processed yet or dealt with. And they all just come flooding back in. And on the weekends when my son was with his mom, I was just completely by myself. Yes, I had my fur baby. At the time I had Cheyenne, another corgi. But it got to a point to where, okay, now I'm starting to think, what am I going to do? How am I going to change? Okay, all of this stuff come flooding back. And I didn't want Alex to see this, my son, because it was like he was doing his own healing. He was doing his own thing. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't put any more stress on him. So I kept all of this to myself, and it helped talking with a couple people, a couple other guys that were single fathers themselves that had already been down the road. They'd already been through this. So they kind of gave me some pointers on what to do. And they said the first thing that I did by setting up the routine was the smartest thing to do, because they wish they would have known that, because that helped the transition. If you can keep things leveled out as much as you can, it really, really helps. But trying to figure all of this stuff out there was a lot, and it was completely overwhelming. And if you were to factor that in, and like I said, I've been divorced now 13 years, and that's all in the past. I dealt with it. I've moved on. I'm good. Everything's fine. I still talk to my ex-wife. I still coordinate things. We still, because we'll always have a son together. So I've always kept it very amicable, very easy to talk to, because I want to make sure that I never put Alex in the middle of between both of us. I always wanted to make sure that, he could talk to his mom, could talk to me. I didn't want him to pick sides, is basically what it was. As much as I absolutely can. He chose to come live with me, so he did. But that was as far as picking as he needed to do. I just wanted to make sure that, if you wanted to go talk, and still till today and stuff, if you go talk, it's no big deal. I mean, that's mom. And trying to figure all that out while dealing with all the trauma that I went through from the divorce, and And like I said, mine was actually very amicable. It was done right away. I mean, I got very lucky. I've had so many people that I've known that are going through a divorce right now or have been through a divorce, and it was a 2-year project to try to get everything separated out and get everything done. And I just didn't want that, because I didn't want my son going through so much heartache, so much headache, and so much hurt because of the divorce. I just wanted it done because I wanted him taken care of. Now, I don't know if that it makes much sense, but to me, I was always more concerned about what he felt and what he needed, and worked up from there. But if you were to factor in, 13 years ago when I went through my divorce, about 13 and a half years ago now, I guess is where it's at, men weren't quite so disdained and hated back in those days. I think it was starting, but it wasn't quite as bad as what it is now. And I've talked to a lot of people. I don't understand the hate for men that's out there. It completely confuses me. On everybody wants them to do the hard work, the disgusting work, the dirty work, the dangerous work, but yet you run him through the mill when he's actually doing those jobs and providing for his family. I wasn't able to figure that one out, and I still can't wrap my head around it. So I'm hoping someday I'll be able to figure that one out. But all I can try to do is tell the guys of today, you can make a great single father. I know there's so many things out there. I mean, the court systems are still against us. They still rule for the moms most of the time, and that's just the way it is. Things are slowly changing, and I think within time they will get there. And I was grateful that my son come to live with me, because that made it easier for me and the transition to make sure he was okay, stayed out of trouble, because kids need a good, for a lack of a better person, they need a role model. And I'm not saying I'm a role model, but you still have to have, parents always seem to guide their kids to, with manners, respect, chores, doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, and trying to build these new individuals that are coming into our world to try to make them productive individuals of society. And it's hard to do, because you just never know what's going to make the kids happy. What do they want to do with their lives? I mean, I knew what I wanted to do from about age 8 on. From some crazy reason, I did. And like I've said before, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a therapist and a counselor to try to help kids and teach kids and work with kids. I always thought that would be so fun. And I did 6 years of student teaching, helping out after schools, being, a study helper, everything there. I mean, I dedicated my entire life. When I wasn't in school, I was helping the kiddos out as much as I possibly could, because that's what I wanted to do. And I guess that's kind of, it's still a desire today, but I being 49 years old, I just don't see myself going back to college for 4 years. And then, I'll be honest, I just don't know if I have the energy to do it anymore. And that may sound lazy, and I apologize for that there, but I just don't think that I have enough energy to get through, because one thing you do as you get older, energy gets kind of shorted. You need more to keep going, but it seems like the energy cells don't recharge quite as fast, and your body hurts a little bit more, and there's just so many things that are in the way. And yes, those are excuses. If I wanted to buckle down and do it, I would do it. But to be honest, I just don't see me doing it anymore. I mean, I still want to help people in the absolute best way that I can, and that's probably why I do podcasts, is because I just want to help people. That's all I want to do. I want to try to make it a little bit easier for them, or maybe there's something in these podcasts that will help them avoid some of the pitfalls that I went through, or maybe they'll see something from a different angle that'll make them think a little bit, and maybe it'll make it a little bit easier for them. But the thing that scares me the most is these new, and in some respects, I actually have a lot of respect for this new generation that's coming up, is they're not having kids. They're just not. They said, well, we can't afford it. We have rent to pay for, we have vehicles to pay for, we have insurance, we have all this stuff, and it is kind of an outdated custom. It's older school thinking, and like I said, I'm old school, absolutely. And I try to mesh my old school with this new school stuff. And it was when you turned 18, well, then you went out and you moved out, you got your own place, and you started your own family. That's the old school thinking. And in many ways, actually, I respect this new generation, because they're saying, no, that's not what we want to do. We would like to go out and live, but first we have to have a job to take care of the kiddos. We have to have a place to live. we got to be able to figure out how to do insurance, how to get the food on the table, how to pay the bills. And that stuff, let's be honest, this day and age, it's a struggle to do any of that stuff anymore. The kids, I just don't think, can move out at age 18 anymore because everything is so high and so expensive. It's like, okay, where do they start? I mean, it was easier when I moved out back in the early 90s. When I moved out, things weren't as bad. I mean, you could have a job, things weren't out of control, interest rates were fine, and blah, blah, blah. Everything that is opposite of today, for the most part, you could do. So you could afford to move out right away, or you got yourself a roommate and made it work. But I actually have a lot of respect for the kids out there today by saying, no, I am not going to raise a kid right now. I don't want to bring him into this world right now, and I can't fully take care of him, so I'm not going to take it. And I have so much respect, and that makes me so proud, because it's like, you guys are so smart to realize that, okay, wow, I can't do this right now, so I'm not going to do this. So, men making great single fathers, like what I'm talking about, stuff there, they'll make great fathers. There's no doubt. I just hope they're not single fathers. Hopefully they can pull off a good relationship. I couldn't. I really wish I could have. I honest to God do. I planned on getting married, and that was it. I was never going to get divorced, but unfortunately life happens. But like I said, there's been so many men that I have known and been fortunate enough to learn from, young men, older men, I mean, there's one thing that I learned while growing up, and it was told to me, is if somebody wants to give you advice and try to help you out a little bit, sit there, be respectful, and you listen to them, because they have been down the road, they have been through what you're going through, and there's a chance that they're going to know something that you don't, because they have real world experience. They've been where you are right now. They have been through everything that you have been through, and by listening to them, take away, I mean, if they want to give away their knowledge for free, which is something that we do up here in the middle of Podunk, is we try to help each other out. And if we know something, we try to tell somebody that to try to make their life a little bit easier. We don't sell the information. We want to try to help them, because that's our way of trying to help our neighbor out, to help friends out, to try to make things a little bit easier, because things are changing so fast anymore, and things are very difficult to keep up with. I mean, I got a new phone. I can't even figure out how to program the thing anymore. And I used to be top of the line. I knew everything about electronics. There wasn't anything that I couldn't tackle. I mean, I can still tear a computer apart and everything else, but for some reason I'm having trouble with my phone, and I don't know why. It's like, have I become so old that and inflexible that I can't figure it out? But I keep trying. And because one thing that that I learned is, you just have to keep trying. You have to keep trying to move forward. And I think that's what makes a great father. Is, yes, there's a lot for us to handle. There's a lot of psychological effects. And I've got a list here that I'm going to talk to you guys here a little bit about being a single father. There's a lot of psychological things that go there. There isn't as much support out there for single men as there is for single ladies, and that's fine. I mean, single ladies need it. They have their hands full. There's no doubt. I'm not making anything less of single moms. They have a hard road to go, just like the men, but they seem to have more resources and more support than what men do. And that's one thing that I do this podcast for, is I want to try to have a safe place for men and fathers to go to. Now, I know they're not going to be going on my Facebook page and talking about stuff. They're not going to be liking my podcasts or anything like that there. But even if they just listen to my podcast, and maybe they can get something out of it, because like I said, I'm 49 years old. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I've seen a couple winters, and I'm moving on down the road. So there's got to be something in that I have learned that they can basically help and maybe make things a little bit easier for them. But anytime that the single fathers that I know and have talked to, have been fortunate enough to call a friend, we worked together. We tried to figure out, okay, well, what happened, when their kids were going through something, this is what they did. And then in case my son ran into it, then I would kind of have like a little bit of a jump up, a little bit of a head start on, okay, this is what they did, this didn't work, or this did work. And so then I could mold that into my own parenting stuff to make things a little bit better. And that's, there's support groups out there for fathers, and that's something that I think that I wish there was more of. I really would like to start my own support group just to talk to guys to help them out. I just don't know how to go about it, to be very honest. I spend 25 hours a week doing podcasts, 40 hours a week working, but I would find a way to make time. I'm not sure how to do it yet, and I don't know if there would be anybody out there that would want to sit down and just talk, because you can talk about good things too, and that's what you need to do. You need to celebrate your little wins and your big wins, and anything there. If you had a good day, you need to talk about it and just bring it to the table. I just haven't figured out how to go about this yet, but I think that would be something so cool. Is I wish I would have had, as a single father going through learning this stuff, I wish I would have had a safe place to go where I could talk honestly about my feelings and how to be there, okay, this is what I'm going through. Has anybody else went through this? And I'm sure at some point there would have been. And I think that it would be just like another resource to try to figure out how to get through this life and try to how to navigate all the hatred there is for men out there anymore. Trying to figure out, okay, what can I say? What can't I say? I've already run into people there that are not happy with my podcast, and it's like everything I do is positive. But I just think there's people that are just out there looking for okay, I'm negative, I'm just going to say something negative, and that's fine. It's no problem to me. It's no skin off my nose. It's not bothering. All I'm trying to do is trying to help people, and this series is all dedicated to men. I'm not saying there isn't great ladies out there. I'm not saying there isn't strong ones or amazing single moms. I am not saying that in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm saying is there is more support for moms out there. The courts are in their favor. All the rulings, everything out there. There's more places for them to go for support, to get help, than what there is for men. And what I'm trying to do with this series is set up a safe place for the men. So that, you can just listen to the podcast. It doesn't mean that you have to go anywhere. You can listen to it in your truck on the way home, or you can listen to it on your phone after you get the kiddos put to bed and their homework is done and they're fed and their clothes are done and everything there. And hopefully there's something in these podcasts that either will support you or maybe give you an idea about what I went through. Maybe there's something that you can utilize out of that. But one thing that as I was sitting down and writing up the notes to this podcast, I was trying to figure out, okay, this is the psychological things that I went through to get myself through being a single father. And even after, my son's grown up, he can take care of himself, and there's no doubt about that one there. And he's got an amazing partner. They're a good couple, and he's off and running on his own and stuff there. But you never stop being a father, no matter what it is. They're, to the day that they put me in the ground, I'm just going to be a father. And I'm not saying I'm a great father. I'm not saying I'm a good father or anything like that. That's not for me to say. That's for what he thinks and what everybody else thinks, and it's up to you guys. But the psychological effects, I was trying to sit down and I was trying to think, okay, these are the things that I went through. So I was going through and I had most of this list already written down. But then I stumbled across this list, and it's by Dr. Emma Bale, and it came out on May 18th of this year, and it's the psychological effects of being a single father. And I had most of these down, but then Dr. Bale came up with a couple that I hadn't thought of, and it's true. I went through and it's like, oh my goodness, I did go through this. So what I wanted to do was bring up some of these things so that way the single fathers that are out there, you're not alone. I just want that clear. I'm in your corner. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to back you up. I'm trying to give you information to help you get through, because I know you don't have a lot of free time. There's no doubt about that. Trying to raise kids is incredible. Now, I'm fortunate I only had one to raise. I can't imagine you amazing fathers that have 2, 3, and 4 kiddos out there that you're trying to raise. I mean, my mind is just blown by trying to keep up with that many different schedules and personalities and everything else. There's a lot of good that goes behind it. Kids are wonderful. They're so tough. They're so resilient. They continue to amaze me all the time. They're just amazing. And I'm lucky because I got one of the good kids. I was just really, really fortunate I did. But what I wanted to do is go through some of these psychological effects that you go through and try to explain them a little bit here to try to help you out a little bit, so you know that, okay, well, there is a reason for this, or this is why I'm doing this, or whatever we can talk about. So the first one is feeling overwhelmed and stressed. That was I gotta say that was number one on my list too. And then I read that on Dr. Bale's website and stuff there, and it was on the article, and it's like, oh my goodness, okay, so we both feel overwhelmed and stressed. And one of the most common effects of being a single dad is increased feelings of stress and being overwhelmed, because you have to take on both roles. And it's not even two roles. It's not even mom, dad. You have to take on counselor, and you're a teacher, and you're a therapist, and there's so many different things when you're a parent. And there's no, I mean, I know there's books out there, don't get me wrong, but there's no one manual to say, okay, well, this is how the kids are programmed, so if you do this, this, and this, they're going to do this, this, and this. Most of the time, if you figure out, okay, they're going to do this, this, and this, and they should do this, this, and this, and then you see the third column of this is what they're going to do, so it doesn't match up most of the time. So being overwhelmed about being a single father, it is very, very easy. I mean, there's no other word besides overwhelmed and stressed. And it took me a while to settle into. And like I said, it took me probably 6 months to get into the routine, to make sure that, I hadn't messed up our normal routine, making sure I was there for him, making sure that I didn't drop the ball anyway. And it's just, when you have to basically do both jobs, it's a lot. But just understand, we may be called super dads. Some of you have been, and some of the guys that I know that are fathers, they're super dads, they're amazing. But it comes down to, at some point, you're gonna have to have help, and it's okay. You can't do everything by yourself. I mean, you could probably do 90% of it by yourself, but at some point, it helps to have a little bit of help. There's no arguments there. And that's one thing I wish, honestly, I would have learned a little bit faster. Being a Taurus, I am so bullheaded that I just push through, I persevere through, and it doesn't matter whether it costs me a bunch. I just said, okay, nope, I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody else. But I really wish I would have got it through my head that it's okay to accept a little bit of help. And things probably would have been just a little bit easier. So just know that, it's okay to ask for a little bit of help. I know it's not our strong point, guys. I absolutely know that. You're preaching to the choir here. Another one that come up with, and it's labeled as social isolation. And it is. I mean, honestly, when I got divorced, I lost pretty much all my friends. They just left. They chose her side. And basically, so I go from having a good support structure to basically none. I had a couple people that helped me and stuff there, but I mean, when you go from a lot of people and you drop down to just one or two, it's like, wow, okay. And then I was told basically not to talk about it with some of my friends and stuff there, because I understand they didn't want to choose sides. I understand that, and I'm not mad at them. I was a little upset at the time, because like, I need to talk to somebody, and I didn't have anybody to talk to. And so the trees in the hills, I got to tell you, if they could talk, they would need therapists, because that's basically the only place I was able to go and talk. But my friends out there, they said they didn't want to choose sides, and they didn't want any part of it, and I understand them. So I left well enough alone. So the social isolation was probably what hit me the hardest, because right behind that, and then it turned into depression, because it's kind of like, okay, I need to talk to somebody. And I couldn't afford a therapist, I'll be honest. I couldn't. I didn't have health insurance, and I just didn't have the money to put food on the table, let alone go talk to a professional, which is who I am sure I needed to talk to after all of this and everything that I've gone through. But it was just like, okay, everybody chose sides on the divorce, and that's just what happened. These are the cards I was dealt, but I didn't want to show that weakness to my son, so I just bottled it all up, compartmentalized it, and locked it away. But I really felt isolated, and that's one big thing. So just try to find a support group out there, or find a friend that you can talk to. If you have questions, you're welcome to email me. I'll do whatever I can to try to help. Just don't feel that you're all by yourself. That's why I'm doing these podcasts, is to let you know I'm putting a hand out. If you could literally see me, I got a hand to the microphone, literally, letting you know that I'm here to help if I can. If there's anything that I can do to make things a little bit easier. Another thing that I brought up, that I talked about and stuff, was the financial stress. Most of the time, you go from a 2-income household down to 1, and most of the time you got to downsize, you got to get a smaller place, and in this day and age, most of your apartments and rental places are more expensive than what a house is. It is, if your area is anything like my area, rent in here is way more than what house payments are. I mean, house payments are not cheap, don't get me wrong, but the average rent payment in my town is like $1,800. It's just like, and I know there's other areas that are way higher than that, and there's other areas that are lower. I'm just saying that's what it is in this area. And my house payment wasn't even that high. So, I mean, trying to figure all of this out and switching, the financial stress almost killed me. I'm not going to lie, because there were times it was just like, I literally would have to call in to work and take the day off because I literally did not have the money to put gas in the truck to make it to work. I mean, I had literally had how much, I knew exactly how far I could go by how much fuel I put in the truck. And I had to literally, down to the drop, figure, okay, this is as far as I can go. Can we go out? Can we go someplace? Can I drive across town to see my friends? Most of the time the answer was no, because I couldn't afford the gas. Because I had to divert everything I had to my son's school and to food and the bills. And it was just, the financial stress almost killed me. I'm not going to lie about it. It was just overwhelming. The mental and emotional exhaustion of trying to, making sure you got work, household duties, childcare, everything can be so draining. Kids require a lot of care, comfort, and support, especially during a difficult transition of a divorce. They go through a lot, and those poor kids, they're just up in the air just as much as you are. But the problem is we have to be the adults, and we have to be the strong ones. So single fathers 9 times out of 10 have to be the strong ones, or pretty much 10 out of 10 times have to be the strong ones. And whether you're beat down, whether you're tired, whatever it is, you can't pull yourself off that couch. If they want to do something, you go do it. You do whatever it can to keep them going in the right direction. So the mental and emotional exhaustion is just crazy. It's just like, how do I ever get my energy back? And it takes time. I'll be honest with you. Like I said, it was 6 months before I started turning things around for myself a little bit. But it took probably a year before I started learning who I was again and getting going in the right direction. Because I admit, after the divorce, I hated everyone and everything. And I think that's just a common thing with divorces. I don't know. I mean, I've only been through one, and I won't go through another one because I'm not going to get married again. But I know there's some that, I have one friend, he's been through 4 divorces. He's an amazing man. He's strong. I don't know how he does it. He raised his kids on his own. It was just like, holy smokes, how did you do all this? And then still go through all these divorces. This is like, holy guacamole. But nothing but respect for him. I still talk to him. I don't get to talk to him as much. He lives in another town now, but he was always kind of a role model for me when I got divorced, and how I thought men should be. And I looked up to him because he was always strong. He always didn't seem like he had weak moments, nothing like that there. And then once I got to start talking to him away from work, and I would help him and helped him move and stuff, and then I got to see the real person. And it was like, okay, yes, I see where you are strong and amazing, but yet you do have a soft side and you are tired too. And it kind of blew me away, if you want to know the truth. So that taught me a lot there. Yeah, we men are strong, don't get me wrong there, but even us, there's only so much we can handle. So another thing, like I said, I kind of covered on this, but they say grief and loss. Losing a partner through divorce, separation, or death brings profound grief for single dads. They grieve the loss of everyday affection, closeness, and partnership in parenting. And that is true. There's a lot there, and we don't get enough credit for, being able to. A lot of us don't know how to process this grief and loss. No arguments there. We probably should talk to a professional, and if that's what it takes to get through it, I'm telling you guys, quit being so strong and talk to somebody. It will help. Just talking to, I never could afford a therapist, but talking to a good friend, it's amazing how much that can help you. And if you can find the right friend that you can open up about your feelings, about, the sadness, the anger, the loneliness, the guilt of the guilt that I felt about ending the marriage haunted me for years. It took me a long time to get past that. I always regretted it because I wanted my son to always have both mom and dad there that he could always come home to, and I couldn't do it. And it broke my heart having to make this decision. It was the toughest decision of my life. And in some ways, I still regret it, and I still feel guilty about it because I feel like I took something away from him. But processing the grief and loss, that's a lot, guys. You just have to know that there's a lot there, and you have to admit at some point there's only so much you can handle. All of us guys, I mean, I know you guys are tough, and you're sitting there going, oh God, Sean, all right, I've had enough of your feeling stuff. Well, contrary to popular belief, we have them, and you have to deal with them. And you can be mad at me all that you want, but I'm just telling you, at some point they will boil up and they're going to explode. So it's better to deal with them before you get to that point, and it actually will help your relationship out with your kiddos, because you'll be able to handle more instead of trying to fight everything that you're fighting back and trying to figure out how to get yourself through it, but you still got your kiddos to take care of. So another thing that for me, like I said, there was basically, after a divorce, co-parenting challenges was kind of a tough one for me. Trying to make sure that my ex and I kept a united front when working with my son, making sure that, we didn't make too many rules, so that way he had to flip-flop quite so bad. We tried to keep them pretty much the same, no matter which house he was at, because they're going through enough as is, but then if they have all these huge rules at one house and all these huge rules in another, or one house doesn't have any rules, that makes it even worse. I've seen that, and that is such a nightmare to try to navigate through, because they get their way at one place, because typically the parent feels guilty about it, so then they just let them run ramshot over everything, and that doesn't help anything. They need structure, they need guidance. That's just the way kiddos are, because they're learning. Their minds are still open, they're impressionable, they still are learning. So the co-parenting challenges was not the easiest thing to do. We would talk, we would text back and forth to say, okay, this is how we think we should handle it, this is how we're going to handle it, and we just moved on from there. The other one there is dating struggles for a single dad is, good luck. I've only dated one person after the divorce. That's it. Otherwise, I have been single now for a decade. Trying to navigate that while trying to raise my son and making sure he was okay and helping wherever I can. It's just like, I always felt, I honestly, I really felt guilty about dating somebody else. I mean, yes, it was 3 years after the divorce. I think 3.5 years after the divorce. So, I mean, there was a lot of time that had passed, but I still felt guilty, because I almost felt like I was kind of betraying my son, and it was like, okay, this just doesn't feel right. And I think I had a good relationship. I may have had a good relationship, but I ended up kind of tanking it when all said and done, because just everything that I'd gone through and still processing. There were just a lot there, and I just felt guilty. And my son didn't need a babysitter or anything like that there. I mean, he was more than old enough. I mean, he was 14, and at the time I was dating, I think it was 17. So, I mean, he didn't need a babysitter. He was more than capable of taking care of himself. But I still felt guilty about dating, and to be honest, I still feel guilty today. I know that we have to move on ourselves, and I have moved on from the divorce. Don't get me wrong. And I still have a little regret, and I probably will have a little regret about tearing the family apart until the day that they put me in the ground. But the dating part, I haven't been able to grasp yet. It's not like I have a long list of people that are lining up to date me by any way, shape, or form. But it was still the point of I felt guilty about doing it. And I haven't quite gotten past that part yet, and I haven't figured out, I guess, how to get past that part. I'm still working on it. So make no mistake, guys, I'm still learning on this as well. All I'm trying to do is just tell you, okay, this is kind of what I've learned, and this is what I've been through, in the hopes of helping you get through and navigate being a single father. So I came up with a couple ideas of positive effects for solo fathering, and I came up with these, and surprisingly, Dr. Bale had the 3 exact ones, because I was trying to figure out what are the good things about, being a single father. And the biggest thing that I had to create a new support system for myself. And that was the first thing that Dr. Bale also talked about is if you're going to get through this, you need a support network. Having close friends and family members, clergy, fellow single parents to encourage you helps reduce the stress. And it took some time to find some new friends and people that I could talk to. and I'm grateful for the ones that are in my life. I'm very protective of my inner circle and of the people that are a part of it. It took time to rebuild that support system for myself, but once I started doing that, it was amazing because it's like things got easier. It seems like, okay, I'm not really alone anymore. I know there's like parenting classes out there, counseling classes. I'm not sure how many we have in our town or anything because I never really went looking for them. But anything to try to help us single fathers out to process everything, to get through everything, is huge. The other thing, one of the other things is, and I was not good at this, and I'm still probably not the best at this, but self-care. It has to be a number one priority for you. I know you have your kids, I know you have your job, you have everything there, but you have to be able to take care of yourself. This is where basically asking for help comes in, and I know my family, when they're going to listen to this, they're screaming at the speaker right now telling me, Sean, you need to listen to your own stuff and your own thoughts, because you need to start doing this for yourself. Even like I said, 13 years later, I'm still not great at this. I'm still learning. But with me going through my weight loss journey, I have done tremendous strides in taking care of myself, making sure I eat well. I do, the exercise and go for walks, go for hikes in the hills. I make sure that I get as much rest as I can. I don't sleep that well, but it does help. But one thing, that has helped is just taking better care of myself, because it's so easy just to put ourselves on the back burner because we put everybody else as a priority and we put them first. So it's really, really easy for us to basically say, it's no big deal. It's just me, you keep going. But the problem is then you get burnout real bad. You get stressed out, depression kicks in, you're not eating well, your health goes downhill. And then you can't take care of anybody. You can't be there as well for your kiddos when they need you and stuff. So make sure you take care of yourself. I know that's, as for us guys, that's a hard thing to do. But making sure that you take care of yourself, that way you can take care of, your kiddos. You can be there for your friends. You can, heaven forbid, go out and do something once and go out and have a meal with your friends and relax a little bit once you got everything else taken care of. The other thing that I come up with, which, like I said, all three of these I had written down here, so it was like, okay, I kind of had these figured out. But they labeled it as be gentle with yourself, and I think that's a perfect way of putting it. The perfect parental person does not exist. Single dads cannot be perfect. There's just no way. Single moms aren't perfect. There's just no perfect parent on the face of this earth. We all make mistakes. We all make oopses. We all stumble. And you just have to realize that do the best job that you absolutely can with them, and keep moving, with the job, keep moving with the kids, keep moving with school, keep moving with everything else, your own care, and it'll all come together. And just realize nobody's perfect. It's just really what it comes down to. Nobody can be perfect. I mean, last time I checked, there's only one person that's perfect, and I haven't got to meet him yet. And I think you only get to meet him when you pass on. So I'm not in a big hurry to meet him. I'll be interested to meet him, but not until then. But give yourself some credit. Give yourself a break. You just have to understand nobody's perfect, and the kiddos are not expecting you to be perfect either. There's just the way it is. So, you can't judge yourself against, what your ex does, or what, couples that are still together raising their kids. You can't. These are the circumstances you have. These are the cards that you're dealt. You're just going to have to make the best of them that you can. And that's what I did. I made the best of a bad situation, and I tried to do everything I could to protect my son and be there for him. And of course, like I said, my health and my everything there took a back burner, which was not good. That's why I gained over 300 plus pounds. I used food as my therapist, and that wasn't the best thing. So like I said, seek professional help if you have to. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not weak, guys. You're not weak in any way, shape, or form. I don't want you to think that, because just because you need to go talk to somebody doesn't mean that you're weak. I think you're incredibly strong for doing that. You're like my hero to be able to go and talk to somebody and work through stuff. So don't think of yourself as weak. I mean, we get knocked down enough from the society as it is. Don't be hard on yourself, and give yourself a chance to heal. Give yourself a chance to be able to process everything, your complex emotions. I know you say, I don't have any emotions. I beg to differ. Every man out there has them. If you don't, well, last time I checked, I think those turned into serial killers. I don't know. That's just what I've watched on TV. I'm not quite sure. But for the vast majority of us, we do have feelings, we do have emotions, and they're complex, they're powerful, and they're overwhelming at times. So make sure that if talking to a friend or a religious official or somebody like that isn't enough, talk to a therapist. There's nothing wrong with it, because it's all confidential. Nobody's going to know. An hour out of your day once a week is not gonna break the bank. It's not going to end where you being there for your kids. Honestly, I wish I would have had the money and the insurance to go talk to somebody professional. I think it would have helped me, and I still may, to be very honest with you. There's still things that I would like to talk about and try to get worked out of my head, because there's still things that, I'm redefining who I am constantly, especially with my weight loss. I'm still always learning. I'm still moving forward. But it's like I said, you're just always learning. So as long as you're there for your kiddos, take care of yourself. Give yourself a break. That's all I can say. Hopefully there's something in these podcasts that you enjoy, that you can take away from these things, and they help you a little bit. That's why I'm doing these, guys. That's why I spend 25 hours a week doing podcasts, is I want to be there to support you, help you, and let you know you're not alone out there. I know the world is against us, and the world does not like us right now, but we will persevere. We will get through, and you're all amazing fathers. And be there for your kiddos there every step of the way, and I think they're lucky to have you. Let's just be honest. So I'm looking at the time on my monitor, and I am out. I'm over on time like I normally am. I don't know why I can't keep myself in a regular time frame, but I don't. So to end the podcast, as I always do, I like to end it on an upbeat note. So we're gonna end it. If I could just get the words out. I guess apparently I've done too much talking. We're gonna end the podcast on the dad joke of the day. So if you're ready to roll your eyes and groan a little bit there at these amazing jokes, here we go. Do you know where polar bears keep their money? In a snowbank. Hopefully that makes you laugh. I read that one there and I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta say that on my podcast. So thanks so much for listening, and if you get a minute, subscribe, like, comment on the pages. I appreciate all the care and love that you can show there and stuff there, because I want to hear from you guys and let you know what you like about the podcast and what you don't. And as always, all my love and support, Sean.